on in the studio, as well as sending your comments via that platform as well. All right, we'll go straight into our first story for this morning. Good news from the Punch newspaper: distribution of uncollected PVCs will resume soon. Now, the INEC commissioner, through its national commissioner and chairman, information and voter education, Mr. Festus Okoye, disclosed this yesterday in an interview with the Punch's correspondent. He said that there are 11,228,582 uncollected permanent voters card this month. I'll go to Deveo for this one.
Yes, this is INEC doing its job as always. In this case, they're announcing that the 11.2 million uncollected PVCs will be the resume collection.
Yeah.
Now, this collection is in line with the continuous voter registration, as which takes place at the local government level.
Yes.
Across the nation. Now, as you know, they said that once they finish elections, of which they've practically rounded up 99%, I think the last 1% is in River State, they will announce a date where people can go ahead and continue picking up their PVCs. Now, you see, as simple as this announcement is, I'm afraid that the import and the good that INEC is trying to do will not be appreciated, neither will it be inculcated, because we seem to have a pattern whereby we're always reactive as a people, as a nation. Every 4 years we hold elections, I mean, generally, and between after the election and the next 4 years,
Yes.
the continuous voter registration takes place to enable eligible voters pick up the required tool. Remember, the PVC is
Yes.
your capacity, your access to vote as a citizen. And for those who have cases, at least within the rules and guidelines now, you want to transfer your location, you want to change your name, for all the issues that come up, you have a 4-year window to do this. But do we do it on time? No. Most people wait until the last minute and there's a rush. Now, this is not to say that INEC doesn't have its issues. INEC does have operational logistic issues as regards PVC and continuous voters registration, in terms of picking up, in terms of getting it on time. And I think that now that the elections are over, in announcing the dates, they need to also look at how to sort out some of the issues that have happened. Can they increase the collection points? That's one idea that they need to look at, because local.
But just sorry to interrupt, but if you're looking at a 4-year period and people had the opportunity to start once they announce the new dates, hopefully before the end of this month, don't you think if we as citizens also take on our responsibility, it would make the process a little bit easier? Because obviously, if you go and do it earlier, then there's a better chance of it being managed properly.
That's why I'm raising the concern here that even though INEC is doing something worthy, we might not appreciate it to its fullest extent. Unfortunately, it played out also with voter apathy, in the sense that here in Lagos, we had about 6 million registered voters. Only just about 1 million or so came out to vote. Now, that speaks to a large number of people that didn't participate, even though they had their voters' cards. Now, we can't say it more than it should be said. Please, if you can, up on time once INEC announces this date. For those of you that need to collect and those of you who need to register, please go out and get it early without the rush, so that you can at least save yourself the time and the inconvenience.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
In the coming stories, we'll find the new dates. They're already spoken about them.
All right. We'll go on to our next story here, and this one is from the Premium Times. Update on the Blessing Ochanya situation. Adedumade, I'll come to you for this one. Now, the update here is that the lecturer's wife has been remanded in prison, and this report is from the Premium Times. Mr. Obuja's wife, named Felicia, will be in prison until she meets her bail bond. Can you please take us through the story very quickly?
Yes, I remember when we all heard the story of the poor girl who had been abused repeatedly by the uncle, and not just the uncle, but the uncle's son as well, which I'll presume is a cousin. So the man is in prison. Sorry, not in prison, but he's undergoing trial, and his son has not been found. The son has run away, basically. But what is very interesting about this story is that the lesson it tells for people out there, because it is not, though the woman did not participate in the rape, now she is also being prosecuted. But it's good to know that she's not being prosecuted by the police particularly, but by NAPTIP.
NAPTIP, yes.
Yes, and what she's being accused of.
I'm sorry, just to clarify,
Yeah.
NAPTIP, with regards to their function, NAPTIP is the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, and we know that in recent times they've done quite a lot of work in this area.
Yes, they have. And so it's interesting that they're the ones that are particularly prosecuting the lady. And it just shows that mothers or wives or women out there who have wards in their homes and when those wards are being assaulted, when they did not do anything, they also will be liable, because she's being prosecuted under Section 13, Sub 2, 1 and 2 of the anti-trafficking law, which states that which basically provides that anybody who has custody of a person under the age of 18 and who causes or encourages the seduction, unlawful carnal knowledge, or prostitution of that person commits an offense and is liable to 10 years in prison. So basically, any person also deemed to have caused the seduction or such uncarnal knowledge would also be prosecuted. So this just shows that you cannot just stand aside and watch things happen without liability to you as well. So it's very important for the women out there, especially those in Lagos. If you're listening now, note that if any member of your family is committing any such crime against any particular person in your household, then you could be held liable as well. Now, she actually has been granted bail, and a number of conditions have been set. For instance, the bail was granted at 2 million naira for her and 2 million for her shorties as well. And there
Two
are
shorties.
yes. And then there are a number of conditions, which is the shorties will be civil servants not less than grade 12. They must own properties within the jurisdiction of the court. They must submit letters of introduction from their heads of departments. They must submit certificates of occupancy, which will be verified by the chief registrar. Now, generally, in order just to round up, I would like to appreciate the prosecution of this lady, and I also believe that people who are paying attention to this story should also sit up and also ensure that if there's any such thing going on in their household, it is immediately stopped.
Fantastic.
All right. We'll take messages on WhatsApp on 0809-444-0981. Azizi Classic is reacting to the first story, distribution of uncollected PVCs. He said, as for the PVC collection, that's good news for me. I can't wait to get mine. And then we have another one from MI from Akoka. He says, good stuff from INEC. I never had my head around why PVC collection should happen over 4 years. People should come out for theirs. The road to 2023 starts now. A cool PVC collection. And then Joseph from Ikbaja says, INEC he calls them fraudulent. He says, I registered in 2011, but I've not been given my PVC in spite of going to a cartoon LCDA several times. Count how many times I've been disenfranchised. Well, Joseph, it's about time you picked up yours.
Yes, please start now so that you can, pursue the process efficiently in time before the next elections. All right, Gbolahan, I haven't heard your voice. I'd love to take have your take on this particular story. The Guardian newspaper has this report. Senate okays federal government's midterm expenditure framework. Please fund bill. Now, the Senate yesterday passed the 2019 to 2021 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper of the federal government prior to the passage of the 8.83 trillion naira 2019 budget. Good news. I remember I don't know if it was you that we analyzed it, yes, and we talked about the fact that they ought to have submitted this. Well, they seem to have, and the Senate has okayed it. Can you please take us through the details of this story?
Yes, just as you rightly said, as well too, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, we were talking about passing the budget early, and the Minister of Budget were talking about for 2020 going forward, they will try and ensure that they pass the budgets much earlier. And one of the prerequisites to passing the budget is obviously the midterm expenditure framework, which is meant to be or serving as a guideline to the budget and it's meant to be passed 4 months before the budget is before you commence the new year or so. But unfortunately, this wasn't actually submitted until November 6th by the presidency to the Senate. But at least, thankfully, they've now passed it now at the moment. And looking at the midterm expenditure framework, just as I said, what it's normally does, it's supposed to serve as a guideline to the rest of the budget, and in it actually has the assumptions that have been made for the budget, and part of those assumptions are oil production is going to be 2.3 million barrels a day. We're talking about the exchange rate of 305.
Yes.
We're also talking about $60 a barrel as well of oil. And when we look at most of all these assumptions anyway, they're good assumptions at the moment.
Are they too optimistic?
They're not too optimistic. The reason why I said they're not too optimistic is that when we look at the benchmark for the oil price right now at the moment, we're talking $60 a barrel. As at present now, oil is actually going at $71 a barrel.
Okay.
So we're in a good place as at present. If things remain the same, yes, we will be good. We're talking about 2.3 million barrels per day as well. Currently at the moment, Nigeria is hovering between 1.9 to about 2 million barrels a day oil production. I mean, we've had it good for quite a few months now in terms of the security measures and all of that. And so 2.3 million barrels is attainable. The only bit I have to say is what then happens to the OPEC cut that we've been asked to do as well. I mean, the OPEC cut is actually talking about 1.6, 1.7 million barrels a day is what we're meant to be producing. Then the other assumption as well is the 305. When we're talking about 305, we know it's not how many people really do get money available at 305. The last I checked, a lot of people are getting their dollars from the official market at 360. So 305 looks more like window dressing to me.
Yeah, it does window dressing, but it's better to put it to bench it at that. So in the worst case scenario.
No, I mean, part of what this report actually talks about as well too is the harmonization. So we have several rates, as I said, 305, 360, we have other rates. And even the Senate are also saying as well too that it's important and it's imperative for us to look at consolidating those rates so that we have a single rate, which is easier for investors to look at and then determine whether to invest or not. So, we need to look at that. But the other thing as well too is we've also talked about the police funding.
Yes, we've talked about the police fund. But yes,
we need to fund the police.
So it's just that important statement, great stuff. If you'd like to read the details of that, you can go to the Guardian newspaper where it details what they have highlighted there. But story here for you, Deveo, to look into traditional rulers behind Zamfara Killings, says federal government. Now, this statement is credited to the Minister of Defense, Mansur Dan Ali, through his spokesperson, Colonel Tucker Gusai. Could you please talk about this for us?
Well, the federal government has taken seriously the case of banditry going on in Zamfara. And I think the dogs have been let loose, not just in Zamfara, but practically across 10 states within the country, both north and south. But Zamfara is taking the fore, and the Minister of Defense did warn that there are unpatriotic persons, including highly placed traditional rulers in some of these areas that have been identified in compromising the security situation by giving intelligence to the bandits in cases due to greed or, in their instances, trying to keep their positions. Now, he has warned them that the army, that's the armed forces, has been directed to deal decisively with anybody identified in helping these bandits in any way or guise whatsoever. Now, this is a martial position, which honestly should be, but I think beyond this, there's a state of almost total breakdown of law and order in Zamfara. It's not new. Zamfara had been having this all-out banditry that had been taking place. It was almost a place whereby the bandits became the law, and in the absence of strong governance, what you have is people take to their own causes. Now, even though they shut down the mines yesterday, the mines only form like 35% of the issue. You have cases of land grabbing, you have cases of herdsmen attacks, you have cases of ethnic, regional and village-to-village clashes. I mean, it was an all-out breakdown. And what we're expecting is that the security crisis within the nation now require a concerted effort from government beyond the semantics and the sound bites. We already know the situation at hand, that the military and the police are practically stretched out. Their exercises, their operations taking place practically around the nation. We knew this before the election. Now, with the elections over, it seemed that there's been some kind of clarion call for complete breakdown, because it just seems to be spiraling out of control. Now, I expect not only the executive to step up, that's the presidency and the state governors. I expect the legislature to come together to look at this, to see how they can kind of fashion out some stopgap measures, short of a state of emergency, to bring this breakdown of law and order to some level of control.
Bring under control.
Because it affects not just Nigerians, it affects investments. The word gets out that these areas are not safe, and wherever is not safe, money does not go there.
Very true. Thank you very much, Deveo.
Thank you, Deveo. Now, a few messages here on WhatsApp. This is Smooth 98.1, Freshly Pressed 91. And we have this message. Please add your names to your message so we can take them. Temidayo sent in this one. It says, good morning, people. INEC is a failure. They need to sit down and ask the banks how they manage issues of registration for cards, especially the BVN. They make everything look like rocket science. Voter cards or PVC can also be issued through banks while allowing their unbanked in the society to access their cards via their inefficient approach, he said. People are not smiling at this. Now, Nat Adeboye sent this one from Ayo Mairo Ese. It says, INEC should make 2003 election 2023, I guess you meant to say, election more flexible. Your change of location must not be a denial to vote. And George
says the banditry, kidnapping, attacks on communities is partially as a result of lack of capacity and boots on ground in the northwest. Hitherto, the region made an effort to self-police itself through a strong social fabric, but it's unraveling like it happened in the Niger Delta, the southeast, the southwest, the middle belt. The federal government must realize that the normalization of violence in Nigeria is a threat to its existence.
Let's move in very quickly now with you, Adedumade, to this story from the Punch newspaper. Senate wants federal government to increase tax on luxury goods. This conversation is still ongoing as the tax net is being spread across different areas and goods and services. The Senate have asked the federal government to consider increasing taxes on luxury goods and services to boost revenue. Now, this was a suggestion that was made by the Senate Committee on Finance. They made that recommendation at their plenary session yesterday, making some more recommendations besides increasing tax on luxury goods. Also suggested that Nigerian Customs Service personnel should be positioned at terminals for accountability, and the Federal Inland Revenue Service consider increasing the tax net on other products. Well, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, when I was reading through this, I remember your comment last week about the question you posed to Mr. Fowler,
yes,
regarding tax in Nigeria. Now, we all know that the 2019 budget is about 8.83 trillion naira. Out of that, we have a deficit of about 1.86 trillion as well. Now, this is supposed to be funded by, let's say, part loans, part privatization, and also some specific loans as regard to loans that are given specifically for some kinds of projects. Now, in regard to the privatization, we are hoping that we'll make about 1.72 billion naira from that, and but that even in total is not enough, to fund the budget deficit. So that's why this issue of increasing tax on luxury items has come up again. Now, Nigeria has played with this idea for some time of increasing the tax from 5% to 15%, but we've not actually made that decision so far. This also comes on the heels of FIRS having raised 5.3 trillion naira in 2018 through taxes. So of course they'll be geared to raise more this year, and if if introducing this luxury tax is actually going to help, I'm sure they might look at that. But I would also like to think of another way to it, which is trying to expand the tax base.
Or tax net.
Or the tax net, yes, because I understand that a number of countries have actually tried to introduce this tax, including Chile, Turkey, South Korea. But even the US tried it, and after about 2 years, they removed it. And so this is why we must also consider if it's actually the best thing for us. So we should consider, like I said, in expanding the tax net, trying to be more aggressive with our tax collection, and also improving the structure for collection, particularly, which speaks to what you said last week as well. So generally, that's just my position on this. I believe that rather than just increasing it, that we should also think of the tax net. Then also, what items particularly are luxury items? I know things like cars, boats, planes come under such things, champagne, jewelry.
Let's not go to that conversation, because that, you remember, it was started last year, even to the early part of this year, taxes on alcoholic beverages and cigarettes and all.
Well, what even this reminds me of is actually the trend that happened on Twitter some weeks ago when they were saying we should live within our means. So I'm wondering if rice is also going to be qualified as a luxury item. Rice.
Don't go there. But thank you, Adedumade, for your thoughts
They
on
want
that.
us to pop less.
Please, I'll come back to you now that you're speaking. Come back to you for this story from Thisday newspaper. Federal government spent 731 billion naira to subsidize inflated petrol imports. This is a statement from a report that's published by the World Bank. They termed it Nigeria Biannual Economic Update. Said regarding the story you tweeted earlier, they said that among some of the things they said that the oil sector declined, Nigeria's oil sector declined in its productivity, ending on 1.9 million barrels per day, as against the benchmark of, or the hoped benchmark of 2.3 million barrels per day. Bill, take us through the other parts of the story, Deveo.
This was some level of surgical analysis on expenditure in 2018, and they saw that the World Bank said that we had spent about 731 billion naira to subsidize petrol. Now that's about 0.7 trillion. Now remember, we were told that there was no subsidy, that there was no place for subsidy in our budget. Here comes the World Bank. They
called it a different name.
They have opened our backside. Someone should warn them. They should be careful. Now, you see, remember, the subsidy is the difference between the price that you have at the pump and the real cost of fuel landing, which way before now we had known, and it was a debate on the floor of the Senate and House, that how is it possible to maintain, how much did we buy petrol? The liter is 145 when landing cost is coming at 190, you know? So this has been a debate ever since, and I mean, without saying words, the federal government wasn't upfront about how it was being paid. I mean, fingers were pointing to NNPC, and here it did mention that NNPC did make this payment, and it was referred to as a cost under recovery.
Yes.
Whatever that means.
That's a different word for subsidy.
See, that's another word that was brought up to terms, and what they mentioned was the mechanism employed was this amount by NNPC was deducted from the revenue prior to the transfer to the Federation accounts. Oh my God. You see, that's the Italian job that they've been denying. Now, you see, the problem here is I really do want to question the legality and the constitutionality of such cost under recoveries. Can any ministry, department, or agency deduct funds that are rightfully meant to go to the Federation account before appropriation? Now, in also stating in this analysis, the World Bank also did state that the excess crude account, that's the ECA, which provides for the country's fiscal buffer, remember then, saving for the rainy day, which was meant to be the difference in earnings, in terms of crude earnings from the budgeted price, was nearly virtually depleted, even though oil prices, that's Nigeria's Bonny Light Blend, was averaging $21 a barrel more than the price that was budgeted for the year. So question mark again, oops, where's the money? Who stole our cheese again? Well, you know, we do understand that the Federation has been sharing money. We're all aware. Two, they've been defending the Naira each time the CBN pumps dollars into the market. That's our savings going. Remember, some have questioned the sustainability. Also, it was stated that there was a military there were withdrawals for military equipment. So, coming forth as they've approved the MTEF, we need to really open up some aspects and put them under scrutiny to ensure that we are moving forward in a fiscally positive manner.
All right. Thank you, Deveo, for that. Yinka said, please, the federal government needs to be guided on the recent tax drive they are on. Please, whatever happens, just do not touch the beer. I know. I know we already.
Leave it alone.
I think Yinka
VAT
is a
on
big
it.
advocate on
Yes.
that. He's always mentioned that.
Exactly.
All right,
But he says, please let's leave it as status quo, but just remain the way it is. All right. Shagun sent in this one.
Shagun says, having identified those traditional rulers behind the unrest in Zamfara, I think they should be arrested and prosecuted. Enough of sound bites and rhetoric, as Deveo said, and more so, whatever they use to suppress the killings towards elections to get votes should be maintained.
All right, let's go to this next story very quickly. Adedumade, from Thisday newspaper. INEC fixes Kogi Bayelsa governorship polls for November 2. They're given a timeline here saying that the primaries, that parties should hold their primaries for the nomination of such candidates that they intend to push for the gubernatorial polls from 2nd to 29th of August. We've also penned the campaigns to start the 2nd of August of 2019. But what do you make of this timeline?
Well, just like you said, you've provided the dates in which this activities will hold by INEC. Now, the timeline is quite interesting, but what I find most interesting is one conduct of the elections. I hope that we'll be able to learn from our mistakes in this 2019 general elections. I hope we will not see issues such as voter intimidation. I also hope that people will be able to defend their votes in case of any case of violence. Now, what is going to be also interesting is the issue of Kogi. Now, in Kogi, they have about 1.6 million registered voters, but they still have about 293,000 PVCs that has not been collected. And INEC has said that they are going to do a door-to-door distribution of these PVCs across the 248 wards in the state, which is actually great. But Kogi is going to be a battle between the governor who is there now, Mr. Bello, and also someone who a lot of people agree might throw his heart into the ring, which is a very popular person. Now, also, this also reminds me of what happened just I think about yesterday or 2 days ago when there was a trend on Twitter called Kogi Explained, which, as far as I'm concerned, so people just came to Twitter with bleach. I was trying to wash someone's
ego.
Yeah, well, but that didn't work. I guess people were able to see through it. So also in Bayelsa, this will also be holding. In Bayelsa, they have about 923,000 registered voters. And what is also interesting is that both states are being controlled by the oppositions at this time. So one is being controlled by the APC, and the PDP, of course, want to take over. And the second, of course, is being controlled by the PDP, and the APC want to take over as well. So I think both states are going to be very interesting during this election season. But of course, I will always hope for free and fair and credible elections, most importantly.
And what will be important to see is how INEC puts the house together and just make sure that preparations are intact.
Yes, and Buhari also needs to sign the new electoral act.
So, do you see that possible before this one? Maybe 2023. Let's move on very quickly to touch on this last story before we go. Gbolahan, this is for you from the Telegraph. Magu, that's the EFCC acting chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He has cautioned bank officials in the country against aiding money laundering and terrorist financing.
Yes, I think this was mentioned to the chief compliance officers of banks in Maiduguri. He is actually being quoted by one of the EFCC spokesmen. And it was just a reminder as well to that, when you're having banking transactions for individuals, you shouldn't actually have cash withdrawals more than 5 million, and for companies as well to more than 10 million. So of course, this is all in an effort to prevent money laundering and also financing terrorist activities, which I think it's they're in the rightful place to do as well too. And I think the banks have to be held culpable a lot more as well too for a lot of these illicit transactions that take place in Nigeria. We see in so many crimes where banks are heavily sanctioned, but we rarely see that in Nigeria. So I think we need to do it.
The net is spread across, different personalities, regardless of status in society.
All right, thank you so much for being a bit part of the conversation today. Thank you for your comments and on Twitter, and thank you very much for watching on YouTube. Thanks to our analysts, Gbolahan at Mr. G Quest on Twitter, Adedumade at Adedumade on Twitter, and of course Deveo at Deveo Okorie on Twitter. Lagos, we're still here, and we continue with the show with the locker room in a few minutes. Tega will be joining us for that one. All things sports here on Smooth 98.9.